All right, guys, welcome back to Beyond Tactical. Today we're out here at the Parma gun range here in Idaho, and we're gonna be testing 4 of the hottest lights on the market, and these are pistol lights. So we are gonna be running the Surefire X300 Turbo, the Surefire X300 Ultra, the Streamlight TLR-1 HL, and the Holosun PID. What we're gonna be doing here is we got a shoot house behind me. We're going to, we have 2 targets in there. We're gonna show you what these lights look like inside of a building. And we're also going to show you, we're going to take the slides off the guns, and we're going to show you what it would look like on a bad guy. So one of us is going to go down there, and we're going to show you how they light up your target. So no more talking, let's get right into the video.
So first we have the Surefire X300 Turbo. It's got a super tight beam pattern, 650 lumens. It's like 65,000 candelas, I believe. Don't quote me. But so we're going to film it, go into the shoot house, kind of get an idea of the splash on the walls. So it's on, super tight beam. I'm walking in. And then that pattern is super tight, super far penetrating. And then if we look down this hallway, I'd say that's about 15 yards to that target at the end of the hallway, completely lit up. And I can target it on different parts of the target, which is super nice. And it's tight enough to where you could probably shoot off of that center beam and be somewhat accurate. So let me just get my ear pro on and I'll do a few shots on that. All right, so I'm gonna take a few shots on that at the end of the hallway. Oopsies. All right, right on the center there. Pretty much right at the middle of that beam, so that's pretty cool. So we're gonna keep moving down. All right, we got a tight juncture here. And then we come around this corner. That is probably less than 5 yards away right here. Completely blinding on that target, but it's still wide enough with the surrounding to where I could still see like his feet are illuminated if he had them. So I'll take 2 shots on that right there, and it's pretty much right at the center of that beam. Keyhole it, cool. So that is the Surefire X300 Turbo. Super tight beam pattern, good enough splash to where you could see everything else around the center beam. The toggle switches are super easy to maneuver, so we're gonna move on to the next light now. Okay, so this now is the 300 Ultra, so direct comparison to the other Surefire. We're gonna load it up here. Nice little birthday load. Okay, so walking to the house, you can immediately see there's way more splash. It's a way wider beam. That center beam is not as tight. It's kind of more similar to the Streamlight, which you'll see soon here. So I'm walking in. I have a really wide field of view. Once it gets to like 10 feet away, it's just a pretty consistent wide beam. Walking in here. Okay, so we're down the hallway now. The target, there's less of a centered beam on the target, but everything is illuminated. So I would say this is a really nice light for inside, just because it's lighting up the entire hallway, but the light is much less intense on the target, so less probably disorientation from their end. But I'll do 2 shots there. Okay, so I wouldn't this light is a little bit harder to point and aim because there's no center beam, so I definitely, you have to look through the sights if you want to know where your bullets are going to go, because it is such a spread out light. We're going to walk in here, and this close target's probably where this is going to really shine. So yeah, when I get into this tighter area, 5 yards or less away, that entire person or target is completely lit up, which is super nice. But there isn't that centerized beam. We'll do 2 shots. So a little difference there. That is why I like the Turbo a little more, just because you can, in a dark environment, you can pretty much point to aim with that thing. So that's the difference of the beam patterns. Inside with this, much more splash on this one, a little bit less blinding on a direct point. Now we're going to move on to the Streamlight TLR-1 HL.
All right, so we're gonna be shooting the TLR-1 HL now from Streamlight. And one thing with this light is we got a solid beam, and it's also got strobe for a blinding factor if you want. And then you can flick it on, or you can hold it on if you don't want it on the whole time. So let's go ahead and move into the shoot house. As you can see, it's got a little bit more of a centered beam up close, but it's pretty much just a floodlight. So we'll come in here on the first target, and all the way down there, pretty much the same as the last light you guys just saw. It just lights up the whole room. So we'll go ahead and take 2 shots on this. Okay, move on to the next ones. And then right here at 5 yards, like I said, it's a little bit more directed on directly on the target. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but
here, move it up and down.
It's a little bit more of a centered beam versus a floodlight, in my opinion.
I'd say it's right in between the turbo and the ultra as far as the centered beam, but the brightness is on par with both of the Surefire lights.
Sure. So yeah, that is the Streamlight TLR-1 HL. Up next, we got the Holosun PID. One thing I really like about this is the buttons are really easy to hit and they stay on. Also, if you look on the bottom here, we got magnetic charging. So at night, I literally plug my gun in and it just magnetically clicks on there. That way, if an intruder comes in the house, you just pop it off the magnetic charging and you're ready to go. This is 1,000 lumens and I got this for 99 bucks. So let's see how it compares in the shoot house. So right away, I'd say it's a little bit, it's pretty similar to the Streamlight with the direct beam. You can kind of see we have a more central light and then it kind of floods out and fans out. So let's see as we move through. And then on a hallway like this, we got, it's just pretty much a floodlight. So we're going to do some shots real quick. Okay, we'll move on. We'll see how it goes up close. So up close, again, same thing, pretty much directed right on the target. Pretty dang similar to the Streamlight TLR-1 HL. We're going to do 2 more shots.
So to me, it seems like this one is like a happy medium as well. In the closer range, you got a pretty directed beam, but then when it gets farther out, it turns more into floodlight. It's pretty cool, and it's definitely one of the brighter ones, I'd say.
Sure.
It seems like it's more than 1,000 candela.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,000 lumens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a good option. The only thing you got to watch for is holster compatibility, so make sure you check with that before you buy the light. I made that mistake.
But it will fit Safariland holsters.
Yes,
so.
it will fit Safariland, but I do think this is a good option, and I do like the fact that I don't have to carry batteries. I don't know the battery life on this, but I know that when this thing's charged, I have rarely had to charge it, so it's a good option also. All right, now we're gonna take the slides off the top of the guns, and we're gonna show you what it would look like on a bad guy with the lights, and we're gonna show you at some different distances.
Okay, so we have the Surefire X300 Turbo here. We're going to start with that one. We have our human target, Jake, who graciously volunteered. So this first one is going to be pretty blinding. This is about 5 yards. We'll go up towards his face. Would you say that's pretty blinding at this distance?
Yeah, it's very disorienting.
So I can target it directly at his face with this tight beam, and then I could still see with the flood what his hands are doing if he's reaching for his gun or whatever. Let's have you back up now, walk like 10 yards farther away.
I will say it's only blinding when it's directly on my face, though.
Okay. So that's the good thing about the tight beam is that you can really target where you want that brightness. So now he's about 15 yards maybe. So I could still target that beam directly at his face. How's it feeling from that distance?
It's still very blinding.
Still very blinding, okay? And I could still see whether or not he's reaching for something with his hands. I got really good vision of his hands. And let's have you back up to like 35, 40 yards.
All right, okay. I'm about 35 yards now.
Okay, so we're at about 35 yards now, and now the targeted beam is kind of covering his entire body from this distance. But in that targeted beam, I can clearly say he's reaching for his gun right now. I could see what his hands are doing. I could even just target it out his upper body if I want, and have his lower body pretty dark. How is it feeling from over there, the brightness?
Since it's pitch black around you, I can't see anything around you, but at this point, it's not as disorienting.
Okay, awesome. So now we'll move on to the Ultra. So here I have the X300 Ultra, and we're gonna do the same thing at the different distances. This one's okay, so from 5 yards right away, you could tell that there's not really a centralized targeted beam. It's it's flooding out everything. I could see clearly his hands from here. How disorienting would you say from this distance?
It's still disorienting, but it's about 10% less disorienting than the
turbo.
Okay. If I had to put if I
Very
put a
scientific.
number on it. Yeah.
We're very scientific here. So
Yeah.
I'd say, honestly, his central body or center mass is pretty much all lined up. It gets a little darker outside of those fringes. Let's have you back up to, what, 10 yards, 15 yards?
I was here last time.
Okay. So from this distance, his entire body is in the center of the beam. But like I said, it is pretty, it's very flooding, this light. So I could still clearly see if he's reaching for his gun. I could see his face. His entire body is lit up, and there's a good amount of splash all around him. Let's have you back up. Oh, and then from this distance, how disorienting would you say?
It's definitely not as bad as the turbo. My eyes are starting to adjust to this light, but
Okay.
it's still it would still be very disorienting if it turned on suddenly in the dark.
Okay.
How's your visibility on Jake?
It's non-existent. He is
Okay.
completely in the black.
So you'd be shooting directly at the light,
Yes,
right?
Okay. Awesome. Let's have you back up to, what was it? We went straight to
35.
40 or 35. See, this is where the turbo starts to shine, is at these distances. Already he's like walking into the abyss a little bit with this Ultra.
Be harder to determine what your target is.
Okay, so from this distance, he is lit up, but very dimly. I can see that he's reaching for his holster right now, but it's not very bright. Yeah, I'm struggling here. I can't make out his face from this distance. I cannot. I wouldn't not be able to identify who that is if I went and lit somebody up like this. How disorienting from there would you say?
It's not it's not disorienting at all,
Okay.
but I can't see your surroundings still.
Okay. Yeah. So this beam is just not as tight, and it's not penetrating as far.
That's what she said.
Definitely. All right. Awesome, Jake. Thank you.
Yeah, by the way, this is what 3,000 lumens would look like if you turn off your light.
Oh God.
This is
It looks
not a
like
tight
it's in
candela,
front of
though.
you.
The sun just came up.
Yeah, that looks like a friggin' spaceship. Okay, so this is the Streamlight TLR-1 HL. This is also 1,000 lumens like the Ultra. So from 5 yards here, I'd say it's a little bit more of a centralized beam than the Ultra. And I'd say it's maybe a little bit brighter. I can target it more on his head or center of body, but I will still say that the beam is covering about his whole center of mass right now. The flood is definitely taking care of his lower body and his surroundings. And you'd say, how disorienting would you say this is at this distance?
A little more than the Ultra and a little less than the Turbo.
Okay, awesome. Let's have you back up to 10 yards, or whatever it was before. Okay, we got him at the next distance. At this point, similar to the Ultra, his entire body is within that somewhat centralized beam. You can see his surroundings very well, but the brightness of his body has definitely decreased. But I could still clearly make out if he's reaching for his gun. I can tell who he is. I could see his facial structure. So, and then at this distance, how disorienting would you say?
It's about the same as the Ultra. It's not very disorienting. It's starting to become much less.
Okay, and then we'll have you go to the 35-yard mark. Thank you very much.
I feel like I'm kind of getting more data than you in some ways.
That is true, yeah. Okay, so I don't know if it's the fog moving in, but I can barely make him out at this distance. I can see there's somebody standing there. I could tell if he's reaching for his gun. Go ahead and like take your hand off the gun and then bring, yeah, so I could definitely see what he's doing with his body structure, but I cannot make out who that is. I can't really tell. I couldn't tell you really what he's wearing. He's definitely lit up, but it's much harder to make out from this distance. How intense would you say it is from here?
It's probably the least out of all of them now.
Okay. I wonder if that could be the fog rolling in, because I am seeing more distortion.
Yeah.
Here we have the last one. This is the Holosun PID, 1,000 lumens. We have him at 5 yards again. Okay, so I would say this is a less concentrated center beam. So there is still a center beam similar to the Ultra and the Streamlight TLR-1, but it's less defined. Like around the edges of the center beam, it's less defined. His center mass is very lit up. I could see whether he's reaching for his gun or not. How disorienting would you say this is at this range?
Still not as as disorienting as the turbo.
Okay.
But it's probably about the same as the other 3.
Okay. All right, and we'll go back to 10 yards. Okay, from this distance, it's lighting up his, so I'd say the center beam of the light is not covering his entire body. It's from his knees and up, I'd say. I could clearly tell if he's reaching for his gun or not. I can make out who it is. Very bright in that center there. He's very lit up. Disorientation-wise?
It's probably the same as the other 3 lesser ones.
Okay.
And the turbo is definitely still in the lead for most disorienting, most bright.
Okay, awesome. And then we got the last distance. Okay, so from this distance, I'd say maybe a little brighter than the Ultra and the TLR-1. As far as I can kind of make out what he's wearing, and I can totally make out if he's reaching for stuff, or I could see his hands. But he is a little bit more lit up than the other 2 floodlights, other than the turbo. His surroundings are pretty lit up, but I still wouldn't be able to tell you who that is. How disorienting from that distance would you say?
It's not disorienting at this distance. It's the same as the other 2 that weren't as disorienting as the turbo.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jake. So closing thoughts after doing this test and really seeing how they perform in a house and outside at distance. I think all of us here decided that the turbo is probably the most advantageous, not only for the more penetrating, brighter central beam that really transfers to farther distances well, but also just the inside the house at closer ranges. You really get that center defined beam, which we've shot off of the beam, and it's pretty accurate, so you can almost use that beam as just your aim point in tighter areas, which is a really nice feature. And then the other 3 performed well, but especially in the house, the other 3 did well, but at distance they really fell off fast just because they're not as centralized, and that they're less candelas means the light is penetrating less at further distances. All 3 were great choices. The Holosun really surprised us just because of how bright it is and the price point. We will have to test the durability to see if it's on par with the Surefires and the Streamlight, but the TLR-1 HL and the Ultra are great options if you just want a big wide beam, especially for houses. It really fills up the whole room with light. And then the Turbo is a great option if you want that centralized beam and you want to pierce further distances. So for outdoor usage, I'd say the Turbo, and we all agreed, is probably the best pick, but it's also got that hefty price point, so you got to balance price and performance. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this kind of content, and make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It really helps us out. If you disagree with any of this or anything, let us know in the comments, or if you have any questions about these lights. We also want to know what lights you guys are running and why you guys run them. So make sure to let us know in the comments, and we'll respond to them. And yeah, we really appreciate the input. And thanks here to Jake for coming out and letting us use some of his equipment and being our test dummy for the lights. Yeah, it was a great time, and we will see you on the next video.